think that you have to be able to separate people from systems. Yes, I think that there are people who, because when we talk about white people, I don't even think it's about the people. I think it's a system of privilege in this country that, to tell you the truth, goes much bigger than whiteness anyway. I remember when I first moved to Virginia and I was living in a trailer park for a little while and as a teenager, and the first time I heard a white person call me a nigger, and I'm thinking, but you walking around barefooted. I mean, it didn't bother me so much, it confused me. So I want to be clear that this white privilege, as it were, or this system is not shared by all white people. It's not even shared by most white people. It is a system.
Well, this is what, let me challenge you right here, right?
Okay.
Because what you just illustrated
Okay.
dictated the linchpin of white privilege, right? That it's not based on, which America would tout, socioeconomic background, how hard you work, that the privileges that you get from being a citizen here or being in this capitalistic society, you can reap. But that person who has less than you still feels more than you, a higher status than you.
Oh, absolutely.
Apart from economics, because of the color of your skin, right? Yes. And which is why Black people cannot be racist, right? We can be prejudiced. No, you see, this is,
I know, you know, we don't, I don't know if I agree with that. Okay.
Real quick. No, but this is part of redefining, and you see, because you understand legalese, it's, other people call it snake tongue. It's a double speak.
I got
it. Right? It's right. So when we talk about it in this manner, racism, that brings a certain connotation. Now, prejudice and bigotry, those are the same words, but they're to different degrees and to different aspects of society.
I got it.
Or applications. When we say racism, that is the ism that's attached to our financial and social arm as it relates to race relations, right? So in our capitalistic society, Black people do not hold enough power to implement anything. Therefore, they cannot implement racism.
I don't know if I agree with that, Andy.
No, I mean,
I know well, I mean, obviously, there's obviously things we disagree on. I don't agree with that. I'm going to tell you why. I absolutely understand, get the distinction, and maybe, and tell me, correct me if I'm wrong. The distinction here is prejudice being just another word for bigotry, some level of I think my race is better or ethnicity is better, whereas racism is about having power over that prejudice, having power over that bigotry to subjugate someone else.
Well, not just subjugate them, systematically.
There we go. Thank you, Andy. And this is my point. Remember 2 weeks ago when we watched the video of that young 21-year-old kid, Black kid who was shot down by the police. It was a Black man who shot him and then said, oh, it won't be an open casket funeral for this one, because he is a part and parcel of a racist system. He doesn't recognize it. So he's really an idiot because he doesn't even recognize that he's part and parcel of a system that's also oppressing him personally. So I think if we back up when we talk about racism from people in general, I don't think Black people or white people, whatever, can be racist. I think the systems can be, and I think anybody can be caught up in the system and a part of that system.
I mean, I would think that, you know, as a Harvard Law School graduate, you found a very small loophole of an exception where a Black person can be a racist because they are upholding a racist system, right, in their action. And that's only because he's been given that power of police enforcement to implement or wield any part of that power. For example, I'm a Black business owner. I have people on my payroll. I say, you know what? I'm going to pay them X, Y, and Z. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. You have some power over maybe somebody's life, but you don't have any systematic power. You can't change an SAT test to disenfranchise 1 million black kids or white kids. You can't implement a law that says, because you looked at the statistics, that 85% of this community who's African American makes X, Y, and Z amount of dollars. So you implement a law where they have to purchase a new ID card in order to vote, right? These are the things that are broad sweeping connected with our society, and your application to a cop, I would agree with, would be an exception, is why I say black people predominantly cannot be racist. That would be an exception if they are holding a position of power within our society, right? Within our society, because a black CEO of Fortune 500, Oprah, right, still doesn't have enough power to implement racism, where the white people or Asian people are systematically oppressed from attaining a certain level of equity based on decisions that she can make.
Let's go there, Andy. Though let's go there for a second, because now you got me. You piqued my interest. Let's talk about Oprah for a second.
All right.
You saying that she cannot be racist, but I think, take it back to the officer, the black officer. She can be part and parcel of a system that is. So when you got Gayle King saying the things that she was saying about Kobe Bryant when he was dead, and the reason why Snoop Dogg went off the way he did was because she was a part of a racist system. Why are you why are you demeaning his legacy when you wouldn't have done that to a white man that had that level of respect in the community and died? So I get it on their own. And I think, okay, if we take it further and we talk about racism with white people, on their own, they can't be. But
yes, they can, because we see that in Central Park, right? Because that's where referent power. There's absolute power, which is what we're mostly been discussing in terms of the implementation of racism in our country, like an owner of a business or somebody in power implement it. But there's also referent power, which is what makes the majority of the juice for the racism pool, is the consensus of the many, right? Where a white woman can have the benefit of the doubt to even feel like she's threatened based on things that she's heard. Be able to now implement her feelings and bring police into a scenario where now this gentleman could be killed within 30 seconds of their arrival.
Wait a minute, what are you talking about? I think I'm missing.
No, I'm just saying. For example, the Central Park, one of the reasons why we're so upset about that is that her actions could have harmed that black man. Because as she's crying,
I forgot.
In Central Park, said that he was being attacked.
He was attacking her. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All these false claims.
Yes.
Right? Where people are getting the police called them. And we see when black people have an interaction with the police, there's a possibility, and it seems to be getting higher, incident of their death. So when you have, right, a white woman crying on the phone for the police, that could very well be a deadly phone call. And we have to also understand, white women tears have killed just as many black and brown bodies than a white man's gun.
Don't touch that, Andy, because you're going to get us cut off this live and cussed out if you go there. We can't even touch that. Because that's
enough's enough. We got enough. Compensation is over.
That's going to open up a whole nother can. That's going to open up a whole nother can.
Compensation is over.
What was it, Marcus Dixon down there in Georgia, who received oral sex from that woman, and then she later changed her mind, and they tried to put him away almost for life because of it, you know? So yeah, when you start talking about tears and all of that, but let's go back to this thing about systems. Let's go back about systems. And I think we're talking about something really important here, because that is the problem. We are not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against powers.
Principalities and dominions.
Come on now. And so what's happened is, I think in order, and that's why I say I didn't feel this way before. I felt before you could change the person in the White House and things might be different. You know, for what it's worth, I think Trump has proven that that's not the case. Because people talk about getting rid of Trump and what, put Pence in? Put Mitch McConnell in? I mean,
no, they want Biden, right? And I'll be more controversial. I'll just say this: 1992 crime bill.
Well,
okay.
People change, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that
they change, right? I said the compensation era. I said the compensation era is over. We are now dealing 1 week away from him apologizing for telling Charlemagne, "You ain't black if you don't vote for me." I mean,
okay,
that's 10 years. No, but right, crime bill is after 20 years after Anita Hill, right? When he took that black woman to town,
he did.
Okay?
But they
so
all
we're due, right? Every 20 years, it's
They all did, though, Andy. Hold on, be fair. They all did. Nobody believed that lady except for her and her. I mean, I'm talking about, even if they believed her, they were all trying to tear her apart. They really were, because they were just.
Even more of a reason that is somebody that we want to move away from, because their antiquated view should have stayed where they left that lady.
Sure.
Period.
I got you.
Right?
But okay, so now that we're here, now that we're at the place where it's clear changing a person is really not going to make, it's a slight deviation. You know, Obama said something which I thought was interesting, which I may have agreed with even 6 months ago. He was kind of making this comment, I see you smiling, in context with the Alexandra Cortezes of the world and Bernie Sanders. He said, most Americans don't want to blow up the system. They want change, but they don't want to blow up the system. And I would say, Mr. President, I don't think that to be the case. I think most Americans, even though they might not want to blow up the system, have come to realize that it's the only way that real, lasting, systemic change will happen. I mean, look at what they did to him. I think if he were to be president, if he were to have done his presidency again, he would have done a number of things differently.
One could hope. But going back to the systemic racism, just to kind of finish up on that point, if we realize, right, and I understand there's exceptions to everything, right? With that, it's to everything, right? All the black people we mentioned with potentially racist intentions and or power are like either really high level people or people who are directly plugged in to certain positions of power of the system. So they themselves, as their black body, cannot wield that power unless it has been given to them, or they're wielding a tool of the system at the moment that they're wielding that power. At the moment they go home, that power is no longer theirs because they were borrowing it.
Okay.
It ain't theirs.
I agree.
Now, that lady who can make that phone call at the grill, by poolside, at the park, is part of a system where she's got mobile access. She can go anywhere and use her privilege to put a black man's life in danger. And you have Congressman Bobby Rush equating this to Emmett Till, equating Aubrey to Emmett Till. Because a white lady said, oh my gosh, I was accosted, I was whatever, he's barbecuing in the park. They came through and it did him. That's why black people as individuals, right, cannot be racist. We can hold racist positions for our racist system. We first have to understand that our system is racist. Capitalism needs a bottom tier to feed.
Karl Marx, you need an Untermenschen. You need that. The lump, you got the bourgeoisie, proletariat, and the lumpen proletariat.
Claude Anderson said, if we don't change how we interact with the system as black people, we will be the permanent underclass. And that's what we're seeing.
Say that again.
If we don't change how we interact with the system economically, socially, we will be a permanent underclass within capitalism. And that is the move that we are seeing.
That's deep. That's deep and very concerned about. The way you explain it is the first time that I've heard it explained quite that way. Because what I didn't like with the distinction that I've heard in the past of racism versus prejudice, it almost seemed to be that a white person and a black person could think the same way about the other race, but
yep, you caught it. You got to understand it.
Okay,
right in that
but a white a white person's racist, but the black person's just prejudiced. But
think about it right there while you're in your thought. What is going on when a black person reports something and a white person reports it? What goes on when a white person commits the same crime as a black person? What goes on when you're at the doctor? Who's listening to who? Who gets treatment? Because their opinion matters.
But wait a minute, though. I'm talking about what's in their heart, which we cannot see. I know, and
I get it, but that's the difference.
Got it.
Right? When racism is in play, it's what comes out based on what's in your heart and how it could be implemented.
But to me, if it's in the heart, it's the same thing for both groups.
Yeah, so they're both prejudiced, but only one of them can be racist.
I get what you're saying. I don't know if I'm quite there, Andy, but I do get what you're saying when you talk about prejudice plus privilege. That's what I hear you saying. When now you have
equals racism. Okay, that's another form.
I wasn't going there, Andy. I wasn't going there. I was close.
But that's it.
I was going to say
you need the privilege. You nailed it. You need the privilege to implement your prejudice.
Okay.
You can have prejudice all day, but if you can implement it, you ain't racist, right? Just like you could trade money with your friends all day, but if you don't implement that within the system, you're not a banker. There's levels to the game and interactions with different parts of it.
You're not.
And when that white person makes that same bad choice of heart, that will cost you your life. It won't. If you made that same choice, it won't cost them their life.
Yeah.
That's what racism is.
I got it. Well, I'll tell you a quick story, right? Because I know it comes toward the end, but I got to tell you this story. Obviously, when we get off, I'll tell you the name of the person because we went to school with this person. You know, they were in our class at Morehouse. But we all, me and this person and like 3 other people, went to go to a house party in Atlanta. You know, there were many house parties. This particular house party, it wasn't run by people who went to Morehouse, but actually, no, I think it was. But anyway, whatever reason, we weren't allowed into the house party. We weren't in that group or in crowd or whatever. So my friend, my former friend, and someone you know as well as a friend is yours as well, gets on the phone and says, I'm gonna fix them. Now, if I was not right there, I would not believe this story that I'm about to tell you, Andy. It's a true story. So the friend picks up the phone and calls 911. I'm thinking, are you really about to call 911? And he says, hello, officers. There's a party going on at such and such and such and so place. It's a house party. They're loud. I think they're smoking weed. And it's no telling what, and it's a lot of drinking going on. It's no telling what else is going on in there. And I heard the officer on the other end say, okay, something, I guess taking things down, ask for the address again. And then this person says, an officer, I think they're black.
Yeah.
And hangs up the phone, right? Obviously a black man. We all went to Morehouse together. It gets funnier. The next day, we're all in, what's the cafeteria? Shivers, eat. Some guy comes to me and says, yo, did you hear about that house party? And I'm like, yeah, of course not knowing we were connected with it. He said, they shut it down. The APD came and shut it down. They brought a helicopter? Is that not deep? That was when I first realized how real this thing is. That you would send a helicopter. He had kind of masked himself to sound like a woman.
No, but wait. My question to you is, if he had not projected himself to be something other than what he truly was, would that have elicited the same response?
No, sir.
Okay, so then now we've dug to the deepest, lowest common denominator of why Black people cannot be racist.
Okay, you might have made me a believer because
now what you have made me a believer is that we can uphold racist positions as your friend did, because he held the position of a white woman, which is an implementer of these what could be racist. She can move the system. She can bring a helicopter.
A helicopter. And this is in Atlanta, where you would think in the so-called Black Mecca, if you say all this is going on and I think they're Black people. If this happened in Boston, I wouldn't have batted an eyelash. If this happened in Alabama, I wouldn't have batted an eyelash. This is Atlanta and the APD, and I guarantee you there were a lot of Black officers that came to the scene.
Stockholm syndrome.
That's deep.
We have a lot of people who on the outside look like us, but internally think like their oppressor. Right? And we saw that in your friend's example. They were able to touch something that most
Don't turn this on me. Our friends.
Right. No. Well, right. We won't even think about something like that without exposure to how other people operate. That's not how we operate.
That's not how we operate. And even if we did operate that way, we still would have to be exposed to how effective it is when it's taken from that lane to even have the idea to do that. It would have never even crossed my mind to think, but that was the first time it really hit me. It's real. Not only did they come, they shut down the party, they sent the helicopter. And I heard the call. The only thing was they were drinking and they were smoking. It's not like he said there was a rape taking place or there was a kidnapping. But that goes to show, and I think the point here is that we're dealing with systems here. And unless and until we address systems, you can change the personalities, you can change the people. But until we have a real honest, open, and transparent conversation about systems, it keeps going.